Hello, this is Dr. David Frederick Amakobe from Africa Incorporated. We're consultants in organization structure and behavior. And time and again, we come online or we put up videos on topics that are concerned to our clients that have come to our attention, so that they can be able to educate our clients and the general public. We particularly deal on the impact individuals, groups, structures and processes have on behavior within organizations and society. Today we're going to talk about something that is not concerning, but something that is impactful in society, in the sense that what policymakers think and say have a large impact on the populations that they talk about. And this particular video, we're going to stream. We're going to talk about the perceptions that are formed by policymakers stating that it is very expensive and risky to do business in Africa, and therefore the premiums that business people have to pay for covering trade between the US and Africa are higher. First of all, we have to clarify that Africa is not one large amorphous block that has to be dealt with as one individual, something that has to be feared. It's a continent with over 50 countries, and these countries are very diverse and very different, with different business and social conditions. So if you are dealing with a country in Africa and somebody tells you, oh, you are doing business in Africa, that's very expensive, the premium is going to be high because Africa is very expensive, it's very risky, maybe you are dealing with the wrong person, because you need to be able to deal with somebody who understands what you are doing business, your business, and where you're going to do business. And somebody must be educated and enlightened about where your business destination is before they can be able to make a judgment as to whether it's going to be risky or expensive there. So today I got to clarify that sometimes you attend a meeting or you are discussing subjects with people and they give a description, maybe make an introduction of you, and you do not recognize the person they are talking about. Meaning, they are introducing you, but you do not see yourself in the introduction. Same thing, somebody could be talking about Africa per se, or countries in Africa, and you are an African, or you have known Africa, you have known African countries, say, and you do not recognize what countries they are talking about, but they are in position of influence, which makes their idea of Africa or African countries important to the people they are telling. So it is our responsibility as people who know both the United States and Africa to clarify that Africa is a continent. It's got over 50 countries, and each country has a different business environment. And if there is a computer algorithm that is factoring just Africa as a continent, that algorithm is wrong. Anybody who says that these rates were generated by a computer and they must be right is not telling the truth, because the computer is just processes what is put in. So if the sentiment put in the computer is that African countries are risky and expensive, then it will generate output that says African countries are risky and expensive. So we have to be able to step back and see whether it's our fears or the fears of the policymakers in the United States or the lack of knowledge, because people fear what they don't understand or what they don't know. And it's up to them to seek out the information or to clear the misconception. If you get a responsibility to make decisions about people or about countries, about situations, and all of us grow into positions. We grow into positions. That means we get positions when we do not know what we are going to do. And if we make assumptions of what we think is, we end up creating situations that are not acceptable or good for the people we actually want to serve. So, to start with, if we have to deal with African countries, if somebody tells you I am trading with Africa, ask him which country in Africa are you trading? If they are trading with Morocco, Morocco is maybe 10 miles away from Europe, and it's been under the king, the monarchy for a long time, very stable country, very high very high economic factors. So if they're dealing with Morocco, then they are thinking it's worse than dealing with Turkey, then most likely you have to educate them and tell them that just because you have heard that Africa, that bloc is like that Morocco is not like that. If they are dealing with Botswana, which is a very medium income country, very democratic, well planned, very good business environment, and good infrastructure, they have to be able, people have to be able to tell you what African country they are talking about. If they are talking about working in Kenya, the infrastructure is good. It's whether when you land in Nairobi or land in Mombasa, you will not know whether you are in New York or you are in Nairobi. So I just have this view that the policy makers in the United States need to take time and tour, visit, not even visit, at least look at the videos that are available on YouTube about the countries they're talking about. And they may have to get out of their comfort because the algorithm, YouTube algorithm might show them the videos they are prone to watch. They need to find influencers from those countries on those particular channels and follow them and see what the locals are saying. Just like in the United States, somebody who comes to visit, they visit a very different United States from somebody who lives there. And if they visit from a different country and they are hosted by people from that country, they see a very different United States. If they live in the United States like diplomats, they see a very different United States. So to make a decision about a country, particularly if you are going to give advice to business people who have to solve a problem for that country to be paid cash for it, you must be in a position to put yourself in the position of those people whose problem is going to be solved, and not somebody who just visits and he's given a guided tour of the city, or some reporter who wants to stand out for having visited a far off place, and instead of when they go to a city like Nairobi, they seek out a slum where they can go and say, oh yeah, I went to Nairobi and I went to this slum, so that they can get more viewers. You need to get a very good understanding, a fair view of what the local people, or whether a typical Kenyan or typical Botswanan or Moroccan, who will buy the product of the business people, live and look at life. But I don't think that the risk of doing business in Russia was always lower than the risk of doing business in Kenya. Because all of a sudden, because Russia attacked Ukraine a few months ago, it is riskier, and a lot of American companies which had been encouraged to invest in Russia are being asked and are leaving Russia and coming back and leaving the assets there. But up to the point Russia attacked Ukraine, the rating of Russia, doing business in Russia, was higher. It is just the comfort with which our policymakers had with Russia. It's more like, okay, maybe they look like us, they speak like us, so they are better, or they are less risky. But I would like to venture to say, I think that some people would like to make everyone believe that it is riskier and more pricier in Africa, so that they feel better that at least they're here. But with the international competition that is going on, the US need to make sure that the information they are passing to their business people who want to do business overseas, and the fact that we now have to friend-show our businesses, and Africans are friends of the United States, but they cannot be friends of the United States when the United States talks down to them. Like you're sitting in a meeting and somebody's talking about Africa as if it's some dungeon, and you're thinking, that's not what I see when I go there, that's not what I see when I talk to these people. And people have to understand that you cannot talk down people and expect them to be your friends. And now the United States needs friends more than it has. And people remember more how you made them feel than what you told them, or what you gave them, or what you did with them. So the ability to make people feel comfortable, welcome, is good and proper in the building of relationships. As we friend-show American businesses, we know that African countries, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Botswana, Mozambique, South Africa, Nigeria, Morocco, Egypt, all of these countries are available to do business. But everybody has to pick a country and do his own profile and calculate its own risk. Just like you would picking a country in Europe and calculating the risk. The neighborhood may influence a little bit, or the neighbors may influence, because if you had calculated that doing business in Ukraine is good, but he didn't factor in that Russia would attack it, then of course you would miss out the point. But still, the calculation that doing business in Ukraine was much better than doing business in Botswana, because Botswana is located in Africa and Ukraine is located in Europe, uh, wasn't exactly right. So I think that as we relate, as the international order restructures, we need to understand that we cannot have our biases carried into our policies. And the biases come out very easily and people can see them. And if people see them, they remember. And I think that also those biases make the business expensive in the sense that because it's something like that. You decide that doing business doing business in Africa is risky and expensive. So therefore, you price the insurance premiums higher, obviously, which loads into the business, and then you also advise that those people may not pay, so please load in so that those ones who pay for those who don't pay. So the price of a weekend is triple when it's being sold to Nairobi, but it's a half when it's being sold to Ukraine because you think Ukraine will pay, which makes for what you already thought it is, because you thought it's expensive, so you made it expensive. And fortunately, those businesses in African countries have choices now. They can buy from Russia, they can buy from China, they can buy from the US. And if the US companies are being told to price expensively because Africans may not pay or it's risky, the price is higher, so they will price themselves out. So my point in this discussion is we all have biases. The best of us have biases. And if we are dealing with somebody else or some other country, try to remove those biases and stand in the shoes of those people. And then, if you are in a policy-making position, watch what you say and how you say it. People will remember how you made them feel, not what you told them. I think that the US companies can do very good business and can be able to be more present in Africa more than they are now if the policy and the politicians stop pushing the narrative that it's risky in Africa, that it's more expensive to do business there. That narrative is what makes it expensive. Fortunately, it is going to be expensive to the US companies alone because they will lose out in the business because somebody sitting in Nairobi who wants to buy a computer goes online and checks the computer in the being supplied by a US company and by a Chinese company. And if a US company says, oh yeah, what is your location? Oh, you are in Nairobi. We're going to, this price now is $2,000. It was $1,000, but for you it's $2,000 because you know what? For every 10 customers we sell, 3 don't pay or won't pay, or we have been told they won't pay. So we have to make sure that you pay for those who don't pay. And the Chinese say, okay, no problem. This same computer we're going to sell you for 500. Obviously, the business is going to go to the Chinese people. And by, the more people you deal, the more you deal with people, the more comfortable you become with them, and therefore the more friends you make. So my view is that I think the US need to reach out to the African diaspora in the US to be able to at least work with them. I know that post-independence, there are companies or organizations that formed themselves to work with American companies, but their perspective was to work with the American companies. And the were Americans working with American companies. I think right now African countries have grown to the extent that they need also to have their perspective heard, to have a situation whereby they can speak for themselves. They don't need somebody else speaking for them. Even if some of the politicians in Africa may, like everywhere else, because of influence, because of money or something like that, seem to listen to other people, but their populations have matured to the extent that if their voice is not be heard, they'll buy elsewhere. So, and a lot of African diaspora are Americans. They are comfortable in New York. They are comfortable in California. They are comfortable in Missouri, and they are also comfortable in Kisumu. They are comfortable in Casablanca, and I think it behoves American companies to seek them out to make sure that they are using talent and competencies of people who understand the culture and the norms of both sides of the trade, who will not say things that may be hurtful, but without without knowing that they were hurtful. So, if you get anything from this stream, is that doing business in Africa is neither riskier nor more expensive than any other place in the world for American companies. Also, people remember more how you make them feel than what you tell them or even what you offer them. It's always good to be able to be empathetic to your buyer, to stand in their shoes. And being able to stand in their shoes is not coming with biases. Biases are things we all have, but we must put them aside when we are building relationships. And as America does friendshoring or business to make sure that the international alignments change, we need to make sure that we build relationships based on knowledge, based on understanding, based on empathy, and based on information that is correct, that is, let's say, is not based on biases. So, that is it for today. I thought I would clear that out because it's been on my heart for some time, and I thought talking about it will make sure that we are successful as a country as we venture out seeking business in African countries. I repeat that. African countries are countries on the African continent. And they start from South Africa, Malawi, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Namibia, Botswana, Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, Ethiopia, Uganda, Democratic Republic of Congo, up north, up to Morocco. I haven't named all of them. I've just tried to say Africa is a continent with a lot of countries. And each country is different, with different business environments. We have to stop the thing of, the tendency of lumping Africa together just the way we lump black people in the US, that everybody has got a name but a black guy. Oh, so that is a risk that we cannot afford now. We are only 5% of the world population, and the rest of the 95 are out there, and they may not look like us, but they need to buy stuff from us, and they need our respect, and they need to feel respected, and they need to remember that we respected them. Thank you very much. We'll meet again in another video.